Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's go to our friend Megan Barth joining us from ReaganBabe.com. Megan, thank you for joining us.
Oh, anytime, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me back.
You know, culturally, and this is where we live in a women's world today. Culturally, where are we with all these people that are disrespecting women, that are harassing them, the Matt Lauers, the Weinsteins, the others, ma'am? What's your perspective as a conservative, moral woman when we keep hearing these shocking revelations, John Conyers, Al Franken? Where are we today from your perspective?
Well, I think we're definitely at a watershed moment. I mean, I'm very happy to see that the Democrats, specifically Democrat women, are no longer calling sexual assault survivors bimbos and trailer trash, like Hillary Clinton and many of them did when multiple women were coming up against Bill Clinton, all the way from Arkansas to the White House. So I guess we've evolved a little bit since then. And I have to say that the era of depravity, which Bill Clinton introduced to the White House, I believe affected a generation of women, much like myself, that were led to believe that sexual harassment was nothing but a right-wing conspiracy, that men could really get away with doing whatever they wanted as long as they were, one, a Democrat, number two, they kept the theocracy off women's backs by keeping abortion illegal. And that's not my quote. That's actually a feminist quote. Nina Burleigh, at the time, told generations of women that we should get out our presidential knee pads and give thanks to Bill Clinton for keeping the theocracy off our backs. And I think this type of rhetoric that was coming specifically from the feminists, from Hillary Clinton, and from her cohorts in the 90s really caused an era of silence, whereby we thought that powerful men could get away with anything as long as they were voting the right way. So it's really interesting for me to watch now all of these powerful Democrats, because that's really mainly who's being accused now by other Democrat women. They feel empowered to come forward. Rose McGowan started really the Me Too movement against Harvey Weinstein. And once Harvey Weinstein was picked up, I mean, he was just as powerful. I would say that he was probably one of the most powerful men in the world next to Bill Clinton in the presidency. He owned Hollywood. He was a mogul. And so once he was picked off, I think more and more women became emboldened and empowered, and I'm glad to see that Congress is not exempt from these types of accusations. Not only are they not exempt from these accusations, they were using taxpayer dollars to cover up all of their perverted behavior. And so we have Al Franken, who was kind of resurrecting the 90s excuse of, I'm sorry, but now I just need to get back to work for the American people. Yesterday in the morning, there were 5 women. 5 accusers of Al Franken. Yesterday afternoon, there were 6. So now I haven't checked this morning's news, but perhaps there's 7. John Conyers. My girlfriend Melanie Morgan calls him Captain Underpants. So every time I say, I'm kind of calling him Captain Underpants. But we were told last weekend that he was an icon, and that was told by us by Nancy Pelosi, the champion of women. And so all of these allegations, what is there, 2? She said, well, I've never met the women. Have you? So now we're told that allegations really shouldn't be believed, whereas 3 weeks ago we were told that all allegations should be believed, and someone like Roy Moore must step aside. And so the Democrats are really in a pickle. And they have been for quite some time. I mean, one of the reasons why I'm not a feminist and one of the reasons why I'm not a Democrat is because I watched what happened to women that came up against Bill Clinton.
Megan Barth joining us from ReaganBabe.com. Kevin Miller in the morning. Let's go a little deeper. Matt Lauer. Mm-hmm. What was this going on in this guy's mind? He's grilling Bill O'Reilly. Now all these other things coming out. Meredith Vieira found his sex toys. They were joking about it. I mean, this guy was laughing at all of us. These published reports coming out. He had the door with the automatic lock. He had a secluded office. It looks like NBC News. Some people were knowing about this. And then this guy had the gall to, go after Hollywood, make fun of it with skits on the Today Show, running around in his underwear. I know you're not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but what goes on in somebody's mind?
Well, sexual deviancy, specifically when it comes to harassment, assault, etc., is about power and control. It really has nothing to do with sex or women in general, or sex in general. It has everything to do about power. And Matt Lauer had a lot of power. He had a lot of prestige. NBC gave him cover. Let's not forget that NBC turned down the Harvey Weinstein story that Ronan Farrow had brought to the executives because supposedly Ronan didn't have enough evidence, which is laughable. So NBC kind of allowed this behavior to flourish. You can't tell me that the execs at NBC didn't know that there was this type of behavior. They were very close, the CEO and the booker. Let's not forget Matt Lauer's booker was fired the day before Matt Lauer was fired. So there was definitely this culture, it seems, of deviancy that surrounded Matt Lauer and allowed Matt Lauer to assault and harass women. We have him on tape telling, I think, Katie Couric to, bend over. It's a nice view. And she also told Andy Cohen of Watch What Happens Live that the most annoying Matt Lauer habit was that he continued to pinch her butt. And so
he would pinch Katie Couric's butt?
Yeah.
Ooh.
She said that to Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live when Andy Cohen asked her what's the most annoying habit of Matt Lauer. And she says that he just keeps pinching my butt. So people saw, we have him on tape. And, this type of behavior was ignored, much like Harvey Weinstein's behavior was ignored. Harvey Weinstein's contract allowed him to do what he did as long as he paid for the any lawsuits that came forward. So there was a casting couch. There's a casting couch in the entertainment industry, and Matt Lauer took advantage of the casting couch in the entertainment industry.
Just psychologically, the Yahoo's running an Anne Hathaway interview he did, which was very uncomfortable. You just have to wonder, I guess that whole idea that we read about it, we're seeing it where absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, and I said that the other day when talking about this, and wherever you find absolute power, there will be absolute corruption. It comes in a variety of forms. So we shouldn't really be surprised that our halls of Congress, the swamp, is not immune to these types of accusations. And not only are they not immune, they paid $17 million over the last 10 to 15 years for the assault accusers to shut up and pay them off, and over 260 cases were settled with taxpayer money. And Nancy Pelosi wants to talk about an ethics committee? Are you kidding me? Where was the ethics committee over the last 15 years when we were paying off these political perverts or their victims? And so you see these men mainly, and women aren't the only ones that are sexually harassed. I'm sure that there are men staffers on the Hill that have been sexually harassed. But the problem is that in the 90s, the Democrats elevated deviancy and they elevated depravity and they protected it. And when you protect depravity, you get more depravity. When you protect lawlessness, you'll get more lawlessness. And so I really just think that this is a manifestation whereby finally the dam broke and there started to be some leaks.
Megan Barth joining us from ReaganBabe.com. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. Our phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Let's get to the situation in your home state of Nevada where all the Bundys have now been released. They're still having a trial. They're still doing all these things. From a person that's covering the situation locally as well as nationally, what's the mood? What's going on? What do you make of it?
Nevadans, I lived here for 2 years, so I wasn't here during the standoff, but I know a lot of people that actually were and a part of it. They're very relieved. It was a huge injustice that was brought against the Bundys that ended up with Floyd forgive me, I can't remember his last name, being killed, shot. We witnessed that, a rancher from Arizona.
Oh, Lavoy Finicum, yeah.
Thank you, Lavoy Finicum. And we also can't forget that the BLM at the time, the Bureau of Land Management, was run by Harry Reid's protege, young kid in his 30s, ruthless. He was really Harry Reid's right-hand kid. His main claim to fame is that he did all the opposition research for Harry Reid. So if that tells you anything about the heart and soul of the leader of the BLM at the time. Harry Reid did a lot of dirty deals in Nevada. That's one of the reasons why he's a millionaire. Had mainly to do with land deals. And so this was another, I think, land deal that Harry Reid wanted. And it has loose ties to Uranium One. And a man lost his life of it, a man that was Lloyd Finicum. He was a father of 7, shot by a government agent. And so this was really it really saddens me because I remember watching the Bundys very closely, and it was sad that you had a son and a father imprisoned. So it showed the absolute abuse of government, the tyranny of government, whereby I was wondering who they were going to shoot first. So the Nevadans here feel very relieved. There is some justice after all.
Megan Barth joining us, ReaganBabe.com. Kevin Miller here at KIDO Talk Radio. What do you think is going to go on now? We've got Joe and Mika questioning the president's stability, saying that he has dementia. You've got this billionaire running ads on television, impeach the president. What's going on there?
Yeah. The Democrats, the old playbook, the default position for them when they lose an argument is either racism or you're crazy. This is what they did to Dinesh D'Souza. They called him psychologically unfit, whereby a judge, Dinesh D'Souza, gave $10,000 to a campaign and then was imprisoned by the Barack Obama administration. The judge thought he might be mentally unfit. We're talking about Dinesh D'Souza, pretty smart guy. So this is what the Democrats do. It's kind of out of the old Soviet playbook. If you know anything about that, they would claim that their dissenters were mentally unstable. So I'm not surprised because this, again, is projection. I mean, do you really think that Joe and Mika are sane people? Do you think that a majority of the Democrats are very sane people? Those that were pointing fingers at Fox News and Republicans and Bill O'Reilly were basically telling everybody that the Republicans had a war on women. Well, these are the same people actually we see that, no, it's actually the Democrats' war on women. And so this is what I mean by projection. Everything that they are, they blame you for being. It's so they don't have to look in the mirror. So this is just simply progressive projection. It's nothing new from the Democrats because they can't win an intellectual argument. They can't stand on policy. They can't tell you what they're for, but they sure as hell are going to tell you what they're against.
Megan Barth, ReaganBabe.com. We always appreciate you. Now, stay out of trouble, would you?
Oh, why?
I know you and your Trump hat roaming around Nevada.
Yeah, well, update on that. The woman that assaulted me has been permanently banned from the hotel for life, and it's the only hotel in a small village. So, there you go.
Well, keep fighting the great fight, Megan. We appreciate you. We'd love to have you back.
Anytime.
Okay, take care.
Anytime. Thanks a lot, Kevin. Take care.
Bye-bye. Our great friend Megan Barth joining us. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. 7:23, Kevin Miller in the morning here on KIDO Talk Radio. Our phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And I don't know if you've been watching television lately or you've been on the web lately, but I came across this ad, and I thought it was a parody, but it's by this guy Tom Steyer, and it's called Join Us. Let's take a listen.
He's brought us to the brink of nuclear war, obstructed justice at the FBI, and in direct violation of the Constitution, He's taken money from foreign governments and threatened to shut down news organizations that report the truth. If that isn't a case for impeaching and removing a dangerous president, then what has our government become? I'm Tom Steyer, and like you, I'm a citizen who knows it's up to us to do something. It's why I'm funding this effort to raise our voices together and demand that elected officials take a stand on impeachment. A Republican Congress once impeached a president for far less. Yet today, people in Congress and his own administration know that this president is a clear and present danger, who's mentally unstable and armed with nuclear weapons. And they do nothing. Join us and tell your member of Congress that they have a moral responsibility to stop doing what's political and start doing what's right. Our country depends on it.
There we have it. Good old Tommy. We'll just call him Touchdown Tommy. A billionaire calling people to go to needtoimpeach.com, going after the credibility, the mental stability of the president of the United States. You know, tell that to the stock market, tell that to everybody else. Now, there seems to be a coordinated effort to remove the president from office. If you missed it, and most people do, they don't watch this show, but Morning Miko with Joe Scarborough questioned the president's mental fitness.
Is that we are not fine in this country. I said America will be strong. We will survive this. But right now, at this particular moment.
Now, Joe Scarborough saying we will survive this. At 580-5436, the stock market's at a record high. Unemployment's at a record low. People are starting to get a sense of optimism. The Christmas season is going to be the biggest in years. And yet Scarborough's talking like it's the darkest days of Obama.
And we're going to get to this in a minute with Richard Haas. We are headed towards a nuclear showdown. And yet he's completely detached from reality. We had a New York Times and a Washington Post piece saying so a couple of days ago. And the question is, Mika, if this is not what the 25th Amendment was drafted for,
then what is it?
I would like the cabinet members serving America, not the president, serving America.
America.
You serve America, and you know it. You know you don't serve Donald.
You know, this is like a bad parody, and I know this might be upsetting you, but we need to wake you up. You have a coordinated effort here, apparently between the Matt Lauer-less NBC News and MSNBC, and this billionaire wanting to get rid of President Trump. I will say this. They've got more moxie than conservatives and Republicans. Obama violated the law. Obama spied on people. Obama broke the laws. And Hillary Clinton gave away the emails, and not one thing is done with them.
J. Trump. You represent 320 million people whose lives are literally in your hands, and we are facing a showdown with a nuclear power, and you have somebody inside the White House that the New York Daily News says is mentally unfit, that people close to him say is mentally unfit, that people close to him during the campaign told me had early stages of dementia. Now, listen, you can get mad at me if you want to.
You can say that's not okay to say. But
it is okay to say when are we supposed to say this? After the first nuclear missile goes?
There we have it from our friends at newsbusters.org. Can you believe this? The attacks on our president. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Where are people defending the president? I guess it'll be up to us. Traffic and weather together. And I'm Kevin Miller here. Coming up, we will take more of your phone calls at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Do you believe that the president of the United States should be impeached? Well, of course you don't believe that. But you have people that are saying, look, we're coming after Trump. Here we have a company owned by Comcast. Now, fortunately, Comcast is not a player here in the Treasure Valley, but they're a fairly large, big cable giant. They own NBC. They own everything else. So if Comcast doesn't back Joe and Mika, then maybe they should be fired. Can you believe this? They have no proof, no evidence. And yet in comparison, dear true believers, where was anybody besides pro-life? Where was anybody besides pro-life, calling for the impeachment of Obama. Think about that as we roll on. We'll take your calls next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning.
Well, here we have it. The libs coming after our beloved commander-in-chief. Who will defend the president? Let's go to Mountain Home and Doug with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug.
Morning. Hey, yeah, I think he's the best one that's been in there since Reagan. And I just love seeing these liberals eat themselves, all this stuff that's happening to them on, these sex scandals and all this stuff. Where were they? Why doesn't the Republicans come out, Kevin, and say something? Who paid off this jerk over here in Korea, North Korea? Your last wonderful president. What did he pay him? How much?
Millions.
Well, yeah. And didn't Bill Clinton? Well, where do you think they got the money to build these nukes? From the Democrats. Come on, people, wake up. And where's the Republicans at? The Republican Party. I'll tell you where they're at. They're in bed with the friggin' Democrats, most of them. This country needs to wake up and freaking fire them this season coming up, this freaking midterm election, and put somebody in there that cares about this country. It's just like this Bundy thing. We all been watching it. If you got any American heart in you, I mean, just what that woman said that you had on there, I'd vote for her as president, man. She had me laughing just listening to what she said about these friggin' Democrats. They're, as far as I'm concerned, they're two-faced hypocrites. But I guess a lot of the Republicans, they ain't much better. But Trump, as far as I'm concerned, Trump is an American. These Democrats can't stand it. They can't win an election fair-wise. I mean, I could just go on and on and on and on. People, if you got any eyes, open them up and look and see what they're doing. I'm done. Thanks, Kevin. You do a good job.
Thank you, Doug. God bless.
Yeah, you too. God bless you. Bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We go to Timmy at KIDO Talk Radio. Timmy, good morning.
I tell you, that Doug, he should expand his English language beyond frickin' and freakin'.
I really like what he had to say.
Well, yeah, you would. You Republican, you conservative-minded individual, and given that gal from Nevada that's got the talk show down there, she's such a Republican, what she had to say about Harry Reid, about the dirty deals, there's no proof. Everything she had to say, no one was on the other line to debate everything that came out of her.
Well, why don't you call in and take her on?
Well, I'd call in and take her on. Okay, next time she's on, I'll take that babe on any day of the week. Every politician on both sides, it's like parents. Do as I say, not as I do. You got Conyer that should be out of there. You got the other SNL Minnesota guy that should be out of there.
Al Franken.
Yeah, he should be out of there.
Yeah,
they should all be out of there.
Let's go back.
Why they're not?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because the Republicans are just as guilty.
I was trying to have a conversation with you, but I digress.
Well, that it'll be a Democrat this week. It'll be two Republicans in Congress or the House or the Senate or some position that'll be found out about their going on. So. It'll be nonstop, Kevin, because the women are tired of it.
We're not talking about the women here. We're talking about you and your ilk wanting to get rid of the greatest president in modern history, Donald J. Trump. Now, do you agree
I don't want to get rid of him.
So you agree that they're going too far with these false allegations to impeach him?
I don't disagree, but that's up to them.
Do you want the president to be impeached or not? Do you support that measure or not, sir?
No, I do not support that measure.
Okay, then.
Because I have strong belief in my years of life in karma. What goes around comes around. And you give Trump enough rope, you know what'll happen. And yeah, because, I mean, look at all the things that came out about Trump, and nobody even mentioned when he was talking to the 14-year-old girls way back when. I mean, that's a quote when he says, well, I'll be dating you in a few years. Stuff like that, and he's just as bad as Conyer and all the rest.
No,
so
he isn't.
No,
he isn't. We're not going to let you get away with that.
And how long? What do you mean get away with that?
We're not going to let that be not challenged.
There's not proof that hasn't been said and stated.
That he's bad as Conyers. Conyers used taxpayer money to pay off a sexual harassment claim.
And that's the other thing that babe down there in Nevada said. A lot of that money, they act like every payment was due to sexual scandals or whatever.
Hey, I don't know what it was due for, but I don't want my money going to use for Conyers' little...
And neither does any citizen. But a lot of those cases were legitimate cases that they used tax dollars for.
Legitimate sexual harassment cases. Legitimate sexual harassment cases.
How come Republicans, if you read the small-town newspapers all across the United States, Republicans in the local governments are stepping down left and right before even anybody's made an accusation? They're giving
How
some
come we're having a
excuse
conversation that has nothing to do with what we're talking about?
And how come Arnold Schwarzenegger never stood down as being governor of the state of California after having an affair with his nanny and then even having a child with her? Come on, Kevin, it's both sides of the thing. And
no, it isn't.
And for this Dougie guy to call and use the words friggin' and frickin' all the time, I can't believe you let it go on. Well, his intelligence is... there's no debate.
All of a sudden, you're the person that should be the arbiter of intelligence.
He kept saying, "Come on, people!
Are you the person who's going to all of a sudden be the decider?"
No, I'm not being the decider.
Okay.
I'm giving opposition. I'm giving both sides the debate. That's what doesn't happen.
Jim in Boise, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. I'll try and be more articulate. My thought is, I remember back to the whole Romney and Obama election, they had different health screenings to make sure that they were eligible to be president. Didn't this happen with Trump and Hillary? I remember that going on. Am I incorrect?
Mm-mm.
Okay, and then I remember the same thing. I won't remember. They use the same thing about Reagan being old, tired, dementia. It's the same bag of tricks they pull out when they have a president who's of age where they can say these kind of claims. It's just, another kind of talking point that they'll use to drum up attention. I don't think there's any, reference to it. He can point to his health records that were taken before the election. If he's, got onset dementia, he wouldn't be able to compose himself. I work with the elderly. It doesn't just present at certain times. It's, for the most part, fairly, chartable. You can see the steady decline. They just don't like what he's saying, and because they don't like what he's saying, and because he's of age, they're finding a reason they can, use against him being of age and dementia, just because they don't like hearing what he says. But that's no reason to bring this out. It's just another thing to delay what he's trying to do, in my opinion.
Well, I think it's a cheap shot, but it shows you how far these folks are willing to go when they're running commercials and they're, blatantly lying.
Well, they need something to draw the attention back to Trump. I mean, the Russia scandal has been, quieted for a while. The everything's about all of the accusers that have been preying on women for years is the spotlight, and they're trying to draw the focus back onto Trump.
Jim, good call. Thank you. All right. Appreciate you listening to KIDO Talk Radio. If you're just tuning in, Kevin Miller with you here this morning, talking about this ad that is floating around the internet and television and everywhere else. It's about,
He's brought us to the brink of nuclear war, obstructed justice at the FBI, and in direct violation of the Constitution. He's taken money from foreign governments and threatened to shut down news organizations that report the truth. If that isn't a case for impeaching and removing a dangerous president, then what has our government become? I'm Tom Steyer, and like you, I'm a citizen who knows it's up to us to do something. It's why I'm funding this effort to raise our voices together and demand that elected officials take a stand on impeachment. A Republican Congress once impeached a president for far less. Yet today, people in Congress and his own administration know that this president is a clear and present danger, who's mentally unstable and armed with nuclear weapons. And they do nothing. Join us and tell your member of Congress that they have a moral responsibility to stop doing what's political and start doing what's right. Our country depends on it.
There we have it. By the way, Mr. Steyer is a billionaire. And then you have people, now you have this one. Donald Trump is a psychopath, suffers psychosis, and is an enormous present danger. This is the new thing that people are floating throughout not only the Treasure Valley, but the country. To me, this is un-American. Now, you could say the First Amendment and everything else. But when do, and our enemies see this, and they say to themselves, well, look, Trump is a bad guy. They can't beat him in the media. They can't beat him on social media. They can't beat him in politics. So now they're trying to go after his ability to serve. By the way, Michael Flynn has pled guilty to lying to the FBI. Fox News will have more on that coming up. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, when I see these things, I got to give it to the libs. They're desperate, but they're fighting back. Where were we when Obama had Loretta Lynch cutting deals with Hillary Clinton? And maybe not us, but where were the Republicans in Congress? Where were our billionaires not putting ads on television? Of course, I don't know if the networks would have allowed it to happen. By the way, Time Magazine, going to be sold to a conservative group, might not exist anymore. Amazing. The marketplace determines success and failure. But when you see this at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, it shows you how desperate they are that Trump is reversing the course of action. Everything Obama did, Trump is reversing. So that is one topic. Another topic, of course, is this verdict out of the Katie Steinle case, where you have people finding the illegal alien not guilty of murder. Let's get the latest here from Jessica Rosenthal on KIDO Talk Radio. Think about that as we move along here. Do we have Jessica? Yes, we do. Let's try it again.
Jose Inez Garcia Zarate was found not guilty of murder or involuntary manslaughter. The jury did find him guilty of possessing a firearm. He could get up to 3 years for that. His attorney said he found the gun on the pier in San Francisco and it accidentally went off. The bullet ricocheted before killing 32-year-old Kate Steinle. Alex Bastian was one of the prosecutors.
The verdict that came in today was not what we were hoping for, but I think it's unequivocal. Both sides gave it their all.
Kate's death became a focus of President Trump's campaign as a reason for tougher border enforcement. Garcia Zarate had been deported 5 times before. One of his attorneys went off after trial saying the case had been used to foment hate and a mass deportation policy. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
And there we have it. There we have it. Now, I don't understand how a jury could acquit someone of murder and involuntary manslaughter. He just found the gun and it went off. Serendipitously, right? We'll talk about it next. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio.
The No Sanctuary for Criminals Act basically tells our major sanctuary cities, you're not getting federal funding. Right. You apply for DHS and DOJ grants, and you know what you need to do as a threshold? Obey the law already. Right. And if you flout the law, you're not getting the money. This strikes many Americans as common sense. It's an outrageous verdict, and we will not stop until justice is served, sure, and until there's legislation on the books federally that not just prevents us in the future, but also makes clear to these cities, you better stop putting criminal aliens, sure, before the safety and protection of our American citizens.
There we have it, our friend Kellyanne Conway. Good morning, Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio, reacting to the Katie Steinle death verdict. Ms. Conway?
We want action because this is very simple. This makes common sense to the American people. That if somebody has flouted the law, broken the law, is here illegally, comes back 5 times. Right. That's why folks want the wall built. That's why they want more agents at the border. That's why they want to make sure our brave men and women at the border have the tools they need, the equipment they need to keep the criminal aliens out and to keep the poison, the drugs out of our society.
No, is that asking too much? Is that asking too much in Idaho? Is that asking too much in America? That you have to be required to have certain guidelines, certain standards. There's a big movement going on in Idaho. You've heard the ads on the radio. The Real ID is coming. And I don't know if it's going to impact me, because I just got my license. Renewed, and in Idaho you can do it 4 years every 8 years. And of course you can't smile now because that throws off the voice recognition software. And I don't know if my current ID, which I got this year, will be enough. If not, believe it or not, what is it, by 2020 or 2019, you're going to have to bring your passport with you? No, I'm not kidding. You're going to have to bring your passport with you if you, in fact, want to travel to Nevada. No, not to Mexico, not to Korea, not to Japan, to Nevada, if you're going to get on a plane. Because the old IDs don't have the chip or whatever. And then the requirements for the new IDs are you're going to have, what is it like, a passport, your birth certificate, a driver's license, stand on your head, all these crazy things. Now, this is for American citizens that have lived in America, that were born in America. So we're required to jump through hoops. And yet we have people here, as Kellyanne Conway just told us here on KIDO Talk Radio, that come into this country, can be criminals, can be good people, can be people that really mean well. And look, I understand you want to better yourself. And the legal way to do it is horrific. It's Byzantine. It's absurd. Right? And so here you have these cities that are breaking laws. I don't understand what Obama and Clinton did to the judiciary, the virus they infected it with. Because let's face it, how in the world can you tell a president that he can't ban people from coming into the country? How in the world can you tell a president that sanctuary cities do not, like Seattle, that don't deserve federal funding? Remember how they got the seatbelt laws passed? It was very simple. If you didn't have the speed limit and you didn't enforce the seatbelt laws, you didn't get federal funding. And now we have these liberal progressive judges that decide, well, Mr. President, you don't have that authority. With all due respect, these judges were not elected. They're not the circuit breaker. They're a minor speed bump. And it just drives me crazy. Here you have a situation where a young lady was murdered and not even the guts of a jury to convict this illegal alien of manslaughter. The gun just magically went off, right? Do you believe that?
The Justice Department is weighing federal charges against Jose Inez Garcia Zarate after he was found not guilty of murdering Kate Steinle on a San Francisco pier.
We will prosecute this to the fullest extent available on the law.
Spokesperson Sarah Isgur Flores didn't go into specific charges. She says sanctuary cities are partly to blame.
Refusing to work with immigration authorities and putting criminal aliens back on the streets.
Attorneys for Garcia Zarate argued the shooting was an accident. He'd been deported 5 times before and returned to the United States. In Washington, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
There we have it. There we have it. Now, do you agree with the Justice Department's verdict? They're going to prosecute this person. I don't know if I agree with that. I didn't like when Obama did it. I don't know if I like it when Trump does it as well. Traffic and weather together. And I'm Kevin Miller. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And the idea that the President of the United States cannot shut down these sanctuary cities is just crazy. So what's it going to take? More elections? And then you have people attacking the President of the United States? It's crazy. Another thing that is crazy, another thing that is strange, is just the influx of people that continue to come into the Treasure Valley. And you're saying, Kevin, why is that strange? It's just amazing how many people come in here. And if you're traveling at home at all hours of the night in traffic, how normal the long commute has become. And so we had some folks in from out of town here at the broadcast center. So I was here till about 5:30 yesterday. So like many of you, I'm traveling down State Street, and I was amazed at the bumper-to-bumper traffic. I thought I was in Los Angeles, California. Thank you, everyone from California, for bringing your traffic and congestion here to the Treasure Valley. Let's hope that you get rid of your California plates and become Idahoans. And I'm thinking to myself, if I were a politician, and, we had Gary Michael in here yesterday talking about the new stadium, I think I'd be focused on the infrastructure and the roads, the priorities, as opposed to building a new stadium. And speaking of building, the folks in West Ada, they're looking at another bond or levy, $98 million. We'll get into that coming up as well. But it comes down to this. When you're stuck in traffic, and is there anything worse than being stuck in traffic and not having anything to do? That's why I'm very cognizant. We try very hard to be informative, provocative, entertaining, to give you something to do while you're stuck in the traffic during morning drive. But on your way home, I'm thinking to myself, here we are, the Treasure Valley, people trying to get home. And again, my experience, Chinden, probably the same thing, but, last night it was State Street. And do we accept that, or do we try and change it? We'll talk a little bit more about it next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.